Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is Catherine Gallagher and this is CMG Talk. And it is Friday. Now, some of you might be saying, Catherine, that doesn't mean much to me. It's just another day. I guess for me, Friday is a day where it's kind of coming to a reflection on the week. I take time to think about what I've accomplished or what I've achieved, what I've done. Yesterday I did a training on mental health and mental illness and the difference between mental health and mental illness, because often they're interchangeably used, if you like. We all have physical health. We know that. We often talk about our physical health, don't we? How many times we hear people talking about their aches or their pains or their ulcer or their stomach or lots of different things. And sometimes people talk about their good health, don't they? They talk about being fit or feeling lots of energy or stamina or, I had a really good sleep or all these kind of things with our physical health. But talking about our emotional health is often taboo. That's part of the reason why I've dedicated so much of my professional life, I guess my personal life as well, talking about mental health. Mental health is just as important as physical health. I posted that during the pandemic and it went viral. I wonder though, being the first psychological ambassador, because I basically coined the term over 30 years ago, and since then, has the taboo of talking about mental health illness, talking about conditions around mental health illness, has it become less of a stigma? What do you think? When I was talking about it yesterday, and we're talking about different types of conditions. We're talking about anxiety and the different types of generalised anxiety disorders. Talking about having problems, social anxiety, being in crowds, public speaking. Talking about generalised anxiety where you stress about everything, but it's to the point where you become paralysed. Talking about different types of phobias and fears and irrational phobias and fears, which you know logically in your mind that these are irrational, but yet they're still a fear. Sometimes I have people coming to me with all kinds of fears. Fears of balloons, fears of, clowns, fears of different bubble wrapping, lots of different types of fears. But we also have the more clinical, if you like, for want of a better expression. You might have, different levels of depression. And depression goes from mild to severe, depending on loss of ability to engage in physical activity and not really being able to have pleasure or interest in those, and having low moods, and then having various symptoms. And the more symptoms that you have, the more severe your depression is thought to be. If you have 5, for instance, lack of sleep, insomnia, you have irritability and low moods, you might have generalised fatigue, you might have a loss of appetite, apathy, you might constantly have mood swings, lots of different types of physical, emotional, psychological conditions, emotional states that we can have. And the more symptoms that we have, as I say, the more severe that our depression is often diagnosed as. When I talk to people about mild depression, if it lasts for more than 2 years, 2 years or more, then it's diagnosed as chronic depression. Chronic depression. And often it's termed not just as chronic depression, it'll often be termed as persistent depressive disorder. But often people will say, I can't seem to shift my mood. It's lasted for a long time. I feel as if it's been going on for so long. People often ask me, is burnout a condition? Burnout is actually a syndrome. a syndrome or a symptom, right? It's probably more symptom rather than a syndrome. But people often call it a syndrome, where it develops as a result of exposure to a whole load of different risk factors. So it could be you're working too many long hours, that you're doing too much, that you're overwhelmed, that you have a high risk job or risk responsibilities in your life, that your expectations are so unrealistic. It might be that you work in an environment or live in a really toxic, unhealthy environment. Or maybe a work culture that is blame culture, that kind of environment, or something like that, but it's toxic. You might not be given the right resources and adequate resources to be able to deliver the high expectations. You might feel unsafe in your work in different ways, physically, emotionally, and mentally unsafe. You might be discouraged from using your employee benefits, such as counselling, right, or occupational health, or taking overtime back if that it's paid. You might also have perfectionism set down, presenteeism, where you're expected, even though you're not paid for it, there's an expectation you stay longer and you do more work, or you take it home with you to complete it. And when you think about all of these different types of conditions, anxiety, feeling overstressed, overwhelmed with stress, not good stress, because we need a certain level of stress, don't we? We've talked about this before in previous episodes. If you're following along the episodes and going back and reviewing them, because remember, these episodes are there as a library for you to go back to and review. They're not just there as a one time. And share and like if you find them of interest. This is over 30 years of someone who's worked with so many clinical people, clinical patients or clinical clients, if you like, as a result coach and also as a nurse. And also I've worked within my counselling psychotherapy practitioner practice for over 25 years. So you can imagine the amount of training, the amount of qualifications, and I do training. I do at least 2 CPD trainings every month, minimum, as well as the trainings I deliver. And I'm available, and I've said this before, I do engagements, I do public speaking, I do talks, I'm invited along because of, I guess, people find me entertaining and charming and have a good delivery. Somebody said to me yesterday when I was doing my presentation that, oh, you're excellent, you just give so many examples. And obviously I protect people's confidentiality, but most of the examples I give are of my own personal, going out in the world and things that happen and how you deal with things. But I wonder, stress is something that people often, will not want to feel, but we need a certain level of pressure to be able to get us motivated and to give us a sense of purpose and to feel that adrenaline and to feel that we're achieving. So we need a certain level of stress, but if it becomes too much pressure, then we then go into, if you've listened to me talking about the Yerkes-Dobson curve, and there's lots of other experiments after that and research after that, but this is probably one of the key foundations, that you go from boredom to comfort to working at a level where you feel stretched, to strain, to crisis. And the ideal is that you come from comfort to being stretched. Working and being stretched in that area is where you're performing at your best, you're getting more challenges. In life, you feel as if you're accomplishing, you're achieving, you're learning, you're growing. You feel that you're getting things out of life. But when you feel you're overwhelmed, there's too much going on, you feel that maybe you're unwell, maybe you need to take time out to heal, to recharge, to unplug from devices, these kind of things, you go into the comfort zone. It might be a holiday time, It might be other things that you're doing. You switch off, you relax, you unwind, you de-stress. Sometimes people are in the comfort zone when they're off sick because they need to heal, recover and recharge. And often I hear people telling me that they want to get out of that stretch and strain and they take early retirement. You say, that's it, Catherine, enough, I'm done, I've had enough. So stress is one of those conditions that we need to have, but it's how we manage it that matters. And if you look at anxiety as well, that's a signal to our body. Our body and our mind and our brain is telling us something to pay attention to. But often people don't pay attention to what that message is that we're getting. What's our body telling us? What's our mind telling us? What's the worry thoughts? Worry doesn't give us anything constructive unless we take action. And taking action might be that you might say, it's okay, I don't need to worry about it, it's not mine to worry about. Or it might be that you need to sit down, write a plan, or you might need to get professional expertise and advice. You might need to talk to a trusted friend. And I've talked and covered over, just briefly, depression. Yesterday I was also covering death by suicide. That can be a very challenging, very difficult conversation to have, and a talk sometimes to have with people, because people often find it very difficult to talk about this. But 1 in 13 globally have experienced or know someone, or there has been a death. 1 in 13. 264 million death by suicides globally. I mean, it's like so many people are struggling and with challenges emotionally and psychologically. But we need to remember that with depression and stress and anxiety, these are treatable. These are treatable with the right interventions. But if we talked more about how we felt, we talked more about mental health and mental illness and the difference between them, we were more open about taking ownership and accountability and responsibility, and we talked to each other with care and compassion and kindness, and not judgment. And we focused on things that really truly matter. You'll have heard me talk about some of the things that I experience, people share with me, and I've disengaged from because I've thought, do your thing. I'm not judging you, but it's not my thing. Right? You know, for me, what matters in life is giving my time. If I don't show up and turn up and give my time, nothing happens. And for me, giving my time to people is what matters. Relationships are what matter to me. Investing in the people that I love and care about, and making sure that I serve the people that I provide a service to, and do it to a really good standard. If you're thinking about understanding your mental health and making sure that you give your mental health a good MOT, ask yourself, are you getting at least 8 hours good rested sleep a night? We need that. Are you asking yourself, do I feed my body the right nutrition? Am I looking after my health? Am I taking exercise? The recommendation is that we do some form of exercise 5 times a week. Sometimes people say, I don't have time for that. But remember, if you're hoovering and you're putting a lot of effort into your hoovering and dusting, that's exercise too. If you're walking somewhere and you're power walking, you're breaking a sweat, you're doing some exercise, right? It doesn't have to be going to the gym and lifting weights, or, you know, doing your cardio, your step machines or whatever. It can be other things too. Exercise comes in different forms. And ask yourself, do you do chill out time? Do you relax, unwind, de-stress? Do you switch off your devices before 6, 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at the latest? Are you somebody that lives by your phone? because we know that we need to be able to have good health with our sleep. And that means being able to switch off from devices. That's why a lot of people don't have their phone beside their bed. They have them in another room. And they switch them off so that they go into sleep mode. So that their phone, somebody said that to me. So that's so, Catherine, their phone can have a sleep too and rest. I messaged somebody yesterday. It was actually quite late at night. I messaged them and said, as given the service you do, I'm wondering why you're still messaging me at this time, because it's really late. And where's the boundaries here? Right? Sometimes we have to draw up boundaries so that we have good boundaries. We have to know our limitations or our expectations and know what feels okay and what doesn't feel okay. And receiving communication at 11 or 12 o'clock at night, when it can be delivered within reasonable times, and we can actually have it delivered within time zones. I'm just saying. And this organisation is in the same time zone as me, so I don't know why it was arriving at that time. Just saying. So I was encouraging the person to switch off. That's why I'd said to them, what are you doing? Switch off, right? So good sleep, good nutrition, making sure that you enjoy yourself, have good fun, interact with family, with friends, with neighbours, with your community. Never feel isolated or alone. That's really important, to have some hobbies or interests or learn something new, to keep your mind active and to feel that you're setting yourself goals, that you have a purpose, that you feel validated and you feel loved and respected. And be kind to yourself. Show yourself compassion. It's really important you think about these well-being parameters. The foundations of well-being are really important. That's what I call them, right? Your sleep, your nutrition, your exercise, your social engagements, the hobbies, the interests, the de-stressing, and then the time for you, relaxing, mindfulness, meditation, walking, reading, switching off, chilling out. The amount of times I have people tell me, that's not possible for me, I don't have any time. A lot of the conversations I have with people is them telling me that they've got so much to do. When I talk to parents, sometimes they talk about all these activities their kids have. But their kids don't need to go to every single activity. It's just they've signed them up for everything, right? Because they want their kids to be well-rounded and they want their kids to have lots of things to do. But what they forgot is to make sure that they have time to have time for themselves, for their relationship, date time, fun time. It's balance. Now, the next time I might talk about mindset and being stuck on things, because I think that's something that comes up quite a lot. And if there's anything in particular you want me to talk about, feel free to message me. But just thought I would go over some of the topics that often come up and people ask me about. Sometimes people do ask me to share some of my own experiences, and I'm happy to do that at some point. And obviously, if you do want to come on and talk to me, and talk about some things and have a chat with me, then you can probably tell I'm quite an easy person to chat to, so feel free to message me at stepupcmg@xln.co.uk. And yes, keep the invitations coming for any talks or any conferences or anywhere that you feel would be that you'd want me to go online or come in person, and I'm more than happy to talk about it. Okay, and again, it's probably best to get me on my social media sites or to get me through my email. Bye for now. Until next time, as always, give mental health. Take good care. This is Catherine Gallagher, CMG Talk.